Hey there, Coach Abaxial here with Game Gym Online. Thanks for coming in. Regardless of whether you want to win a Clash tournament with your friends, climb a challenger, or one day go pro, we're here to point you in the right direction. This is lock screen versus manual control. When you played League of Legends for the very first time, the game probably began with a lock screen, keeping your character in the center of the screen at all times. You also probably realized that in order to play certain long-range champions or check on your allies, it would be necessary to unlock the camera and learn to move it using the screen edges or the minimap. We'll call this method manual control. Some therefore have the perception that holding the spacebar to keep the screen on your character continuously is a new crutch for those uncomfortable with controlling the camera manually, but that's not true at all. We'll call holding the spacebar lock screen from this point forwards. There's another form of lock screen, which is by default bound to Y as a toggle, not a hold, but we do not recommend using this. Stick to using the spacebar as it does not interfere with using the other keys. Let's start with the benefits or functions of lock screen. The first function of lock screen is as a tool for chasing and kiting. Whenever combat is going to take us further than our current screen, we want to avoid adjusting the camera too much manually, for two reasons. The first is efficiency. Just like playing an instrument or in sports, efficient movement is faster movement. When we perform manual control by moving the mouse to the edge of the screen, well, you can see I have to actually fight champions in order to play this game. Whenever I do that, I increase the chance that I'm going to make an error. So let's say, I might take too long between my auto attacks, not make full use of my attack speed because I was uncomfortable moving my cursor to the edge of the screen like that. Again, if you're very skilled, you can overcome this, but there is always going to be a chance that you screw up or you get lost. Let's look at this practice tool situation. If I'm at a dragon fight and starting from the bottom, fighting a champion down here, I'm not going to have my camera where I can see this chase path, see the enemy back line. If I want to look at them as I move upwards, I either need to use manual control or lock screen. If I do this with manual control, I'll have to move my cursor several times. I can try to be clever and do it while I'm dashing. It would look something like this. That's certainly doable, but it is a little bit demanding. There's a higher chance that I screw it up. By comparison, if I just use lock screen during this, it's a lot easier. My cursor doesn't have to move very far, and there's less chance that I misclick as I do it. As well, if I need to change my plan as I do this, so let's say I want to try and get to the crab here, like that, it allows me to respond more quickly because, again, my cursor is still on my champion. The second reason is reactions time stemming from visual comfort. Doing big camera movements like this is part of League of Legends. I'm recentering myself with spacebar. But if we do them constantly, we can get a little bit disoriented, a little bit lost in terms of where champions are, where objects are on our screen. By comparison, playing with a lock camera, objects move at a more fixed velocity. It's a little easier to keep up with everything that's going on. This does get broken a little bit whenever we use a blink or we flash, but it's still not that jarring, all things considered. As well, there are skill shots to consider. Whenever I want to dodge a skill shot, well, that's easier when my cursor is close to my champion compared to clicking from further away. I have to move less, therefore I can move faster. If I keep my champion in the center of my screen, then I am always within a certain distance of my champion. If my champion's further away, then this is a little harder. With that said, some people find continually locking the screen like this difficult, especially when it comes to judging skill shots. I'm one of them. I prefer having my screen static as opposed to locked when I'm trying to aim. For people like this, a good compromise may be to just tap spacebar one time as you dash. So like this, slowly, E, spacebar, E, spacebar, E, spacebar, E, spacebar. You can try and build up a bit of muscle memory doing that. A little bit faster now. E spacebar, E spacebar, E spacebar, E spacebar. Like so. This compromise method of tapping spacebar to recenter can help with dodging skill shots as well. Let's say I'm playing Ezra on the red side, which is the top right side if you've never used the spectate function or watched a pro game. These minions may be blue for me, but they are red in the spectate, the official view. They're also red for my opponent. But anyways, we can see that my Q and my W are a little bit longer than what I can see. Indeed, my lane opponent might be right there, but again, can't quite see him from there. So we're going to have to move the camera. Now, we do gain a little bit of vision by using the per side offset. If we look under options, we go to game, we look at camera lock mode. If we compare that per side offset to a fixed offset puts us dead in the center. The per side offset moves us a little bit to the right in comparison, but again, it's not quite enough compared to what we really need. So have to move the camera. By the way, this option here, semi-locked, we don't recommend you use that. It would take another video to explain why. Maybe we'll do that in the future, but please ignore that for now. So we're gonna have to move the camera. However, from this position, I might be vulnerable to skill shots. So right here, look, if my opponent throws a skill shot from here, I must click in a very, very narrow space in order to try and get away. However, if I center the camera on my champion again, all of a sudden, I can click in a much bigger area anywhere in here in order to get away. As well, again, from this situation, my cursor, it might be on the enemy champion. Maybe I was trying to quickly get an auto attack on him or something like that. But hitting spacebar, moving back to my champion, brings my cursor closer to my champion. We can make an exercise out of this idea, toggle minion spawn and cooldowns. What we can do is set up the camera so that we're looking at the target dummy. We've got ourselves, kind of off to the upper side here. And then I'm going to throw a skill shot, but then want to run away afterwards. So I'm going to do Q, I'm going to hit spacebar, and then I'm going to move myself to the upper left. So something like this. That was upper left. Now, if I want to do it lower right, like so, and then just upper right, backwards. Again, giving myself a little more space compared to if I was just over here, I can only click in that one spot and I don't have very much room. So, what are the benefits of manual control? Well, it's necessary to see how your teammates are doing in fights across the map, and as mentioned earlier, champions with long-range abilities can only be used to their fullest with manual control. During the laning phase, I generally recommend manual control for most moments, only switching the lock screen when there's an extended trade or all-in. As mentioned earlier, I personally find landing skill shots a little easier when the screen is static, and the same goes with farming, seeing all those minion auto attacks, but this can be a personal choice, and there are certainly many professional players who mostly use lock screen during the laning phase. You will need to try both and see what works for you. Start in the practice tool, like I am, but you will need to force yourself to use, or not use, the spacebar during real games. As always, what's important to us is that you are aware of the choices that you make. Like this, you can see what works for you and what doesn't, and thus improve your mechanics. That's all for now. Today can be the day that you learn and master lock screen versus manual control.